And the second point, now I forgot.
Well, that first point was so compelling, Toby. I can understand why.
This is the Attorney Business Development Podcast. My name is Tobi Steinemann, and here with me to discuss part 3 of the Business Development Framework is the man who will now tell us where we left off and how we proceed, Bill Burns.
So, Toby, once you've been chasing a piece of work and you've got the work, what's the next step? What's the most important thing here? What really differentiates successful organizations is this sixth step. And I'm sure you do this all the time, Toby. I mean, the best marketing organizations in the world think about, once I have a client, how do I enhance that client's experience? Asking them, debriefing, what went right, what went wrong, what could we do better, what could be improved, what from your standpoint was difficult, what from your standpoint did we make easy. I think there's lots of ways to get a lot more information about where the client is headed when you debrief after a project's completed. Unfortunately, that rarely happens. Usually it's just, okay, that's done and we're going to move on to the next thing. And I think it's important to ask those questions because you can find out a lot about what someone thinks about the service they received. We're going to move on to another project, but if there's somebody else who demonstrates those skills that they need, you might lose the work without even knowing that you are in position to lose the work. I think there's other things we need to think about in terms of adding value. What are we doing to help the client grow his business? Should we introduce that client to contacts that we have that can expand their opportunities for new revenue? Do we have forms or tools that the client can use? Too often, we have situations where we're representing an organization that has a one-person legal department or a very small legal department, and they're strapped for time. They don't have the resources that a law firm has. Do we have forms that can make their life easier and make them feel even better about what we're doing in our relationship? Can we offer other types of training to help them? Can we advise them on things that are coming down the pike in their industry or that's, new regulation? Can we help them think ahead? All of those things help cement a client relationship because, as we all know, it's much easier and much less expensive to get work from an existing client than it is to try to get a new client. And I think it's important for firms and attorneys to put more effort into that, enhancing the experience of the client to build for the future.
Yeah, I think there's 2 points I want to add to this. The first, I think, understanding also how you enhance the client's experience is important if you work with a client in the long term, because at some point, I guess most clients will come back and say, okay, but can't you do this cheaper? Or, there will be price discussions at some point. But then if you understand that what you have actually invested in the relationship and how your service delivery has changed or improved over time, or what it is that you do additionally compared to what you've done before, then you have something to show the client. And we have examples recently where that happened, where a firm came to us and said, hey, we would like to reduce your rates. And we said, okay, but you understand that we've been doing more for you and better things for you compared to where we started. And we never raised our rates, although we actually get more value from us. So that completely changed the discussion, and they started to see this. So I think it's really important to understand that. And the second point, now I forgot.
Well, that first point was so compelling, Toby. I can understand why. We were talking about enhancing the experience in order to keep the client
I remember
over the long term. Yes.
And the second point, in terms of also making sure that attorneys are motivated to look after their existing clients, is also something that I think it's a responsibility of the firm, and to structure the rewards in a way that you're not only rewarded and celebrated if you bring in a new client, but also if you take good care of your existing clients and you increase business with existing clients. I don't know how it is in your firms, but I keep hearing from firms, from people in different firms that sort of the balance there is wrong. So companies say they want to improve their marketing to existing clients, but the reward system doesn't really reflect that. So attorneys, if they want to get bonuses, etc., they need to bring in new clients instead of taking good care. That's sort of expected, but obviously that's a bit contrary to the initial motivation.
Toby, we could do an entire podcast. We could do an entire series of podcasts on how incentives affect business development and how compensation affects business development. The compensation structure can, really drives behavior. You're absolutely right. I think that those structures, the simple hourly rate and the number of hours that you bill doesn't account for all these nuances that are necessary to grow business, to expand business, and to retain business. So we've gone through 6 of the steps. The 7th step is the first step once again. It's who's the client, who's the prospect. If we've done work for an organization, they're changed by their interaction with us. We have to pay attention to the fact that clients are constantly changing. Their personnel's changing. Their markets are changing. Their financial performance is changing. Their competition is changing. All of those things affect how they view their legal counsel and how they view the role the legal counsel plays. These 7 steps, it's not linear, it's a circle. And the most successful business developers are constantly asking the question about who is the client and delving into what it is that they need on an ongoing basis. I can think about dramatic changes in clients that we serve. We have one particular client it's a big company that was kind of sleepy in its approach. There wasn't a sense of urgency to things. There would be assignments and they could lag for months. We would wait for answers on things for weeks at a time. They now have a new CEO. They now have a new general counsel who have brought in a completely different attitude. And that client has changed dramatically in the last year, and how they interact with us, what they expect from us, and how responsive they are to, the things that we're trying to push. So you have to really pay attention to all these changes within a client because they make a significant difference on your ability to get work and to keep work. All of a sudden, there's an urgency to everything that wasn't there before. You have to adjust your game.
But you guys did realize that obviously in time, and because they asked the 7 questions.
We did realize that in time. And actually, we were excited about it because some of these projects would just linger for far too long. And now the pace is much faster, which is actually much better for us.
It's more satisfying if you realize that things are moving forward.
Much more fulfilling that way. Absolutely. No question about that.
Viewing this as a circle and starting again at step 1 after question 6, I think it also ties into the point that we tried to make in question 6, right? That you really have to stay close to your clients and really don't miss out on any developments. So if you look at it as a linear thing, then it stops somewhere, and that shouldn't be the case.
You essentially just fall off the end of the cliff at the end of the project. That's not what you want to have happen.
That's an interesting framework. Do your attorneys like that? Do they understand it?
It's hard to get them to follow it. They like to jump ahead. And sometimes the client pushes you ahead, and then you find out that you should have gone back and spent a little bit more time with one of the other steps. So it almost has to be balanced with the urgency that people feel about growing new business. So you have to be quick about it. You have to be responsive. But at the same time, I think you have to be thoughtful. And I think that's a hard balance to strike.
It's really also client requests. They come in quite careless, right? I mean, they just ask for something and then, okay, give me a quote and I want to move forward. I want to move to the next thing. And then you say, okay, then you have something on your table and you need to do that. And then you move it forward and you rush it. And then in the end, it's not satisfying because you lose out on the opportunity for, I don't know, you don't even really know the reason. You understand the reason, but it's really hard to push back if it's a situation where you feel like, okay, they really want to move forward and you don't want to annoy them and slow down the process, right? So it's difficult to do it diligently, the whole process.
Absolutely. So I think sometimes you have to prioritize. What we do is they're pushing on us, and it's like, okay, I've got these 10 things I'd like to know more about, but these top 5 are absolutely essential, and I'll focus my effort on getting the answer to these 5 questions, and we can figure out the rest from there. And sometimes it also depends upon the relationship that you have with the client. Often with existing clients, when an assignment comes in and there's a lack of clarity, but you got to pick up the assignment and start moving and kind of backfill by asking those questions as you're starting the work.
Yeah.
which is not optimal, but sometimes that's what you have to do to be responsive.
Yeah, I mean, I guess your attorneys, they can knock on your door and say, "Hey, Bill, can you or someone from your team help me to look at this properly or challenge me?" I guess that
Absolutely.
door is open, right?
Absolutely. We do that all the time. It's hey, can you help me think through this approach? What am I missing? What do I need? What do I need to ask that I haven't asked?
Mm,
Happens quite often.
mm.
And then often, we'll get into situations, like I said, where we have work. There wasn't really the opportunity to really properly scope it. And then it's okay, how do we adjust based on the fact that we now have new information that we didn't have before? What does that mean in terms of the work, who's doing the work, how much time the work is going to take, and what it's going to cost? If, we get into something and it's going to be more detailed than we thought, our view is let's have that conversation right now about what this means so that everybody moves forward in a way that we've properly managed everybody's expectations. I think that's a huge part of it, is managing expectations. And sometimes that's where the miss is.
So, I mean, a lot of the role or the value of the role or your role or my role in this kind of scenario is basically also to challenge things, right? I mean, okay, why did you choose that approach? Why are you suggesting this? Is that really what they asked for, or is that your assumption, just to understand, okay, how thought through is this approach, or where are we just guessing?
You're right. That's the value that a good business development or marketing person can bring to the equation, is that they can ask questions, they can push back. I think far too many view the job as an order taker situation, and you're not adding value. Those attorneys, those are my clients, and I take this 7 steps approach to them, just as I'm asking them to take it to their clients.
We had a potential client coming to us on multiple occasions, and it was super difficult to understand what they're really looking for. I asked questions. I tried to get responsible people, FaceTime with them. I tried to get them on a phone. It was impossible. So after we went through a lot of trouble in carefully preparing a quote on the first project that they came to us with, the second time I started again to try and get information, and it was just, I mean, there was someone who's just blocking our way to the direct contact to the people who are actually in charge. So I realized there's no way I'm getting through there. I just play bullshit bingo. I don't spend any time. I don't spend any time thinking about it. I just quote something. So I tried that. Obviously, it didn't work. I mean, it's again, even the short period of time that you invest is not useful, and you sort of discredit yourself as well or there's a risk of that if you do that. But I mean, I'm not going to spend time anymore there to try figuring out what it is that they're looking for, because it's just impossible to get that information.
We have a similar situation where there's an individual and a client that tries to block our access to the top decision maker. And really the best strategy is to try to get that person on our side. To try to begin to position, just show how what we're doing can help position them. That takes a lot of work. It's sometimes a little bit of a guessing game, but once you start to get that person on your side, then you're starting to get the information you really need to be successful, because otherwise you're just going to run into a brick wall.
Obviously, I mean, there would be ways into that organization as well, depending on how hard you want it. I mean, you can circumvent the person, find a way to other decision makers in that firm, or you really figure out what it is that this person cares about in values and spending time. But it's really, I mean, I could feel that also the conversation, it wasn't really clicking. So I think there at some point you also have to cut your losses and let the client go, because it's just too chaotic, and maybe they were also looking for something easier and cheaper, and yeah, that's not what we do.
Exactly. My view is you take the long view, and the long view is, okay, I'm going to see if I can get this person who's blocking me on our side. And you give that some effort, you get to the point where there's diminishing returns, then you say, okay, now it's time to circumvent that person, which might create an enemy, but I think you already have the enemy, so it's not that much of a loss. And then you can make the decision as to whether it's even worth it to continue to pursue the client based on how that all turns out. Yeah. Those are difficult situations to manage.
Yeah. a little bit, I mean, it is the case, like with all these business development and marketing things, right? I mean, in theory and the concepts are clear. And I mean, even in practice, you can work on a lot of stuff, but it's never as black and white as we talk about it now and or talk about it in retrospective. But it's just about understanding how things work in principle that will give you a mindset and the tools to improve your chances and the situation. It's not like we're saying use that circular 7 steps and then you will win every opportunity. No, that's not what's going to happen, right? But it will improve your chances that you will get more you will win more opportunities than you lose, and you will win more than you would win if you compared to the situation where you didn't use that approach.
Absolutely. And I think also it will calm you down, for lack of a better phrase. I mean, I run into a lot of attorneys who are kind of frantic about business development and what steps they need to take. And by having a rubric, an approach, it helps them organize their thoughts and organize their efforts so that they're not frantically doing something all the time.
Obviously, having a plan and a framework, and it sort of enables you to take action, right? So suddenly there is something you can do instead of just feeling helpless and powerless in a scenario where you don't really have any experience, or think it's just a matter of coincidence whether they choose you or the next firm that offers the same. The other week I was in a workshop with 6 partners of a law firm, and one of them towards the end asked, "Yeah, okay, and then you need a USP, but what is a USP for law firms? You can't have a USP because we're all doing the same thing." And I mean, that's sort of the classic thing, right? They hear that somewhere, that you need a USP, and it's like a unique selling proposition. And they think the selling proposition is that I do legal advice in contract law. And I mean, if you say that this is your value proposition, then obviously you're not going to have a unique selling proposition. But if you are this counselor and this advisor through all the steps that you actually approach, you might not be unique, but at least you're going to differentiate. Suddenly you stand out from the pack, and you are someone that they actually can trust, and that's a huge differentiator. Might even be a unique selling proposition compared to the other firms.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm most impressed by people who ask me really good questions, not by people who make really bold statements, but by people who ask really good questions. And I think, the 7 steps give you a framework to ask those questions, to appear to be a very thoughtful individual, because really in the end, you want to secure those opportunities where the client views you as an advisor. That's the most compelling work to do. That's the most interesting work to do. It's the most meaningful work to do. I mean, every attorney has to do, a certain amount of work that's, not that exciting and somewhat repetitious, but really want to aim for, as much as you can, getting work that excites you and gets you out of bed in the morning excited to go do your job. And that's what you need over the long term. If you're going to practice law for 30 or 40 years, you better make it exciting, and you better make it interesting and new.
Yeah. And the really good attorneys that I meet, I mean, I find always that attorneys are extremely passionate people.
Yes,
They
absolutely.
Really, they like what they do, right? I mean, they wouldn't be working that hard and putting up with all the downsides of the business. Obviously, they're well paid people, etc., etc. So you can't say that outside the legal world that lawyers are passionate people and they're in it for the cause, because the broader public will think, okay, but they are just like well paid, so that's why they do it. But that's not what you experience if you actually work in the legal sector, because I mean, yeah, lawyers are extremely passionate people. So that's something that your clients need to see that. And if you don't show that and behave outside of your law firm towards clients, you behave just like every other attorney, then yeah, you're not going to be successful or as successful in business development as you can be. But if you show that passion and that energy and that person that you really are, then there will be connections that are happening.
If I'm a client and I have a really thorny issue, I want an attorney who wants to be well paid, because that says to me that person's passionate about everything that they do. And they want to be at the top of their profession. And one of the ways people are measured in this profession is by pay. To me, that's a sign of someone who really wants to be good at what they do, really wants to be successful and be successful for their clients. But I think, unfortunately, it's not viewed that way.
I was about to ask, is that what you say to your clients, that you should want us to be well paid?
No, I don't say that. But the reality is, there are too many attorneys that I work with who are afraid to, that their rates are too high. And I think that they're just devaluing themselves that way. They should have pride in who they are and what they do and the experience and value that they bring to a question. And they should be compensated for it, particularly if they have a particular expertise. They should be well compensated for that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I have a similar view about us external marketing and business development people, because I mean, if you're applying too much pressure on us, then it's a similar, like, if you put too much price pressure on your attorneys, right? In the end, it's gonna reduce the quality. Obviously, need to make sure that that people work efficiently, etc., etc. But it's not a sustainable long-term relationship if one party is under the constant pressure of being quicker and faster and cheaper. I mean, that's just not how it works. So goes back to your point before, that you should make sure that the good providers, at least, that you have, and the good attorneys that you have, that they are well compensated, so that they don't reduce the quality of their work.
Absolutely. Incumbent in that is, okay, yeah, you push the work down to the lowest level in terms of pay that can do something, and you reserve the really high strategic value work for the highest paid attorneys who get the highest hourly rate. That's the way it should be.
So, Bill, we've gone through your whole circle. You've been doing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of preparation and content for these last 2 episodes. Thank you very much for introducing us to this framework. Next topic will be on me to prepare, so I'm looking forward to talking to you next time.
Sounds good. Always a pleasure to hear what you have to say.